Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is a story set in Lumiere, a city floating in the ocean after being fractured from the main continent. The people of Lumiere are just like you and me. They search for romance, for purpose, all while shouldering their own insecurities and past that haunt them every step they take into the future. However, there is one difference. The gommage. The Lumiere we see at the beginning of the story is not our original Lumiere. No, 67 years ago, with no warning, the Great Fracture occurred. The continent split, with a giant monolith with painted numbers appeared. Starting at 100, each year the numbers counted down. At first it was unclear what these numbers really meant. What was this monolith, and what exactly was the cause of the fracture? That is, until people noticed something strange. Around the time of the numbers changing, which would occur around the same time every year, elderly individuals in Lumiere would start to fade into rose petals and dust, as if they no longer existed in this world. It took 16 years between Expedition 0 and the next journey, Expedition 84, before the people of Lumiere started piecing things together. The gommage represented erasure. The people of Lumiere were being erased from existence. And so, our story begins with our main characters, Gustave and Maëlle. Expedition 33 is a game about the human experience, grief, loss, and the decision on how you will live your life as you move forward. The discourse around the true, or quote-unquote good ending of the game is one that is, in my opinion at least, quite misrepresented. Most individuals, after seeing both options, would argue that Verso's ending is the correct choice. Maëlle, or rather Alicia, needs to move on from her brother's death, and for the sake of her and the rest of her family, must exit the canvas. Because the other choice is just to continue living in the canvas, condemning herself to certain death and making her into nothing but a girl living in her own imagined fantasy world where she gets to play the role of God. However, I think this interpretation is severely reductive. There is no quote-unquote good ending. In a story about grief, no matter what you do to avoid it, there will always be darkness where there is light, and truly that's what makes us human. For much of my own life, I would tell people that all I wanted in life was to be happy. The arguing, the fights, the sadness, I wanted to escape it all. I wanted to live peacefully, just doing the things that I enjoy, spending it with the people that I love. However, as I've gotten older, I've learned life isn't really always about just the happy things, at least. Failure, loss, and misunderstandings, they're all just innately woven into life. I often actually think about that one quote in Adventure Time, where Jake says, "To live life, you need problems." And immediately after he says this, BMO screams out, just like I remember doing internally as a kid when I first watched it. But I think he's right. I mean, he says right after, if you got everything the minute you want it, what's the point in living? I also think about another example from another cartoon. It was from Butters in an episode of South Park where he was crying, saying that he loves life despite having just been dumped. He loves life because even though he is sad, it makes him feel human, because he can only be this sad right now because something good had happened to him before. You can decide to stay in the canvas, save everyone's life, and work to make Verso's painted life more in line with what he truly wanted. A life where he can age, a life where he can play music, and you get to live happily with everyone you love. You get to reclaim your voice and shed your physical scars. Or you can leave the canvas, You can work on fixing your family, helping your mother, father, and sister work through their grief, the same as you. Find a new way to live despite your mental and physical scars. Learn to pick up the paintbrush again and engross yourself in your art in a way that won't kill you. Because unfortunately, if you stay on the canvas, you will die. And not only will your family have to face their own son's death, they'll have to face losing their youngest daughter as well. However, the choice isn't easy because leaving means everyone in the canvas dies, since it will be destroyed. The last piece that you have of Verso will be gone forever in his soul. The fading boy in the painting, he says to you when you're talking to him about Clea. Painting or not, she had feelings and a soul. That's what I think, at least, but I know she thinks differently. For me, everything in this canvas is as much alive as what is outside. You'll be sacrificing them all for you and your family. You must take the good with the bad. Often in the discussion about the endings, reality is brought into the question. The people in the canvas aren't real is what I hear most often. Maëlle is just delusioning herself and won't face reality. And while it may be true, Maëlle is staying in the canvas partly to avoid facing her literal and figurative scars outside. She's also saving all of the people of Lumiere. Framed in a more favorable way, you could argue that Maëlle is sacrificing herself to save them all. Just like her brother saved her. Which, of course, is not the whole truth. Maëlle lived in Lumiere for just as long as she lived in the outside world, and unlike the rest of the Desandre family, she had no recollection of her painter's powers. Instead, she was born as Maëlle, and lived as an orphan in Lumiere. She had an adopted family, a father and a brother wrapped up into one with Gustave. To her, she is just as much Maëlle as she is Alicia. How could all of that just be fake? I think this is a much more philosophical discussion than anything, and to be perfectly honest, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole right now, but suffice it to say, I think it's rather simplistic to simply view the people in the canvas as not real and therefore not important. While it sounds altruistic to say Maëlle needs to get back to the real world and stop running away from her trauma, I question how many of those people would be able to do the same if they learned they were in a painting world this whole time. That this life, the one we're living right now, the one they feel they have lived their whole lives, would disappear if they simply left it. Would they be able to leave, knowing that after they left, everyone and everything would be destroyed inside of it, never to exist again? I think some still would, but I don't think I could. And what does it mean for things to end and disappear forever? When you die, what do you want your life to have been like? It's a hard question, for sure. I don't quite know the answer to it myself. I don't personally want to die before my parents, but not because I want to live a long life. Rather, I just don't think I'd be able to bear the idea of all the pain they would feel. However, I think that's the only thing that is really stopping me. Maëlle has a choice to die in the canvas, but getting to live the life that she really wants to, with what feels like a new purpose for her, surrounded by those she loves, but leaving her family behind to mourn another child's loss. Or she can leave the canvas, losing everything that she currently has in hopes for a better future, sacrificing the people of Lumiere and Verso's painting for the sake of fixing her broken family, already devastated by her brother's death. If you're asking me right now, I think I chose Miles' ending originally because I can understand her feelings. There's no guarantee that things are going to get better. And while she's still young, I'm still young. There are times I wish I could escape into a world where I'm surrounded by the people that I love, and being able to live the life that I want. But there is no magic canvas like that in the real world, so I kind of have to heed Verso's advice. Find my own passion and things that I enjoy, and just hope that things kind of get better, because there's no canvas I can jump into anymore. There's no good ending to Claire Obscure. Both endings end up requiring quite a bit of a sacrifice, and it's meant to be that way, I imagine. And I just think it felt very rude to me to see how people talked about Miles' ending and how she was just delusional and living in this fantasy world because she can't face the reality, and that she needs to leave because things will always get better, which is just, it's not, unfortunately, realistic. I'd love to tell people that things always get better, and I think she can still live a happy life, but I don't think it's wrong for someone to want to live the life that they want to live. It's their choice, and if it means that she's gonna die sooner, but she understands it, what can you do? But Verso, Renoir, I think they're all right too. They're trying to protect their sister, their daughter, and just have her live a long, healthy life, because family is complicated. And being a human is complicated.